in the tempest-tossed years of medieval England, when faith was the only lantern against the dark and storms were seen as battles between heaven and the deep. There endures a tale of angelic voices in the storm. Close your eyes now, dear listener, and let the distant roll of thunder and the hush of falling rain draw you gently into a windswept coastal chapel long ago. This is a chronicle preserved in the yellowed margins of a 12th century monastic register from the Abbey of Cliffside Church beneath your palms, the faint glow of a sanctuary lamp swaying in the gale. Breathe deeply in through your nose, out through your mouth. Allow the slow, soothing rhythm of my words to rock you like a ship cradled in vast, dark waters. It was the autumn of 1173 in the fishing village of Penmere, clinging to the rugged coast of Cornwall where the Atlantic hurled itself against black cliffs. The villagers were hardy folk pilgrims' descendants, sailors, and farmers who earned their bread from both sea and soil. At the highest point above the cove stood the small chapel of St. Mary of the Tides, a simple stone building with a slate roof and a single bell tower. Its priest, Father Benedict, was an elderly man, gentle and learned, who had once been a monk at Glastonbury, before age and infirmity sent him to this remote parish. He lived alone in the tiny presbytery beside the chapel, tended by an old housekeeper named Gwyneth. That year the storms came early and fierce. Week after week, gales battered the coast, driving fishing boats onto rocks and flooding the lower fields. By late, the village was running low on stores, and fear crept in like the tide. On the eve of All Saints, the worst storm yet descended. The sky turned the color of bruised iron, winds howled like lost souls, and rain lashed sideways in sheets. The sea roared below the cliffs as though hungry for the land itself. Father Benedict, despite his frailty, insisted on keeping vigil in the chapel. "If the storm takes us," he told Gwyneth, "let it find me at prayer." As night fell, the wind tore at the chapel door and rattled the leaded windows until they seemed ready to shatter. Father Benedict lit every candle he possessed and placed them upon the altar, then knelt before the statue of Our Lady Star of the Sea. He began the ancient office of Compline, his voice thin but steady against the tumult outside. The bell in the tower tolled once, twice, then the rope snapped in the gale, leaving only the wind scream. Picture it with me, listener. Small chapel swaying almost imperceptibly on its cliff, candle flames bending low in the drafts, rain drumming upon the roof like countless fingers. Your own body grow heavier, your shoulders soften as we shelter together in this sacred place amid the storm. Inhale the mingled scent of salt air and melting wax. Exhale slowly, letting every care drift outward on the wind. Father Benedict had been praying for perhaps an hour when he first heard it. Not the wind, not the sea, but something else. Faint at first, almost lost beneath the roar, came voices. Many voices, harmonious and pure, rising and falling in perfect unison. They sang in Latin, a melody both familiar and strange, like the Salve Regina, yet more ancient. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, above the altar, within the walls, even from the storm itself. The old priest lifted his head, tears starting in his eyes. He knew no earthly choir could be singing on. This night, every villager was barricaded in their cottages far below. The voices grew clearer, stronger, yet never loud, always gentle, always consoling. They wove through the storm like threads of light through darkness. Father Benedict rose slowly and moved to the chapel door. With trembling hands he unbarred it and stepped out onto the narrow porch. Rain lashed his face, wind tore at his robes, but he stood transfixed. Out over the raging sea where lightning revealed towering waves he saw, or believed he saw, pale figures of light moving above the waters, not solid forms but presences, tall, winged, radiant, hovering as though responded. Father Benedict fell to his knees on the wet stone, arms outstretched. The singing wrapped around him like a mantle, easing the ache in his old bones, quieting the fear in his heart. He felt in that moment that heaven itself had drawn near to this forgotten corner of the world. Imagine now, listener, lying safe and warm while the storm rages outside your window, its fury distant and harmless. Feel your eyelids grow heavier, your breathing deepen and slow as the voices rise and fall like a lullaby older than time. Inhale the peace that passes understanding. Exhale fully, releasing the day into merciful night. Down. The storm's height passed unnoticed by many, for exhaustion had sent most into uneasy sleep. But a few awoke in the small hours, widows keeping vigil, mothers soothing frightened children, and heard it too. Through shutter cracks and beneath doors came the sound of singing, beautiful beyond words, drifting down from the chapel on the cliff. Some wept, some crossed themselves. All felt a strange calm settle over their hearts. Boats that should have been smashed upon the rocks were found gently beached at dawn. Fields that should have been stripped bare retained enough grain to see the village through winter. When morning came, pale and wind-worn, the storm had passed. The sea lay strangely calm as though spent. Villagers climbed the path to the chapel and found Father Benedict still kneeling on the porch, his face serene, his hands clasped in prayer. He had passed quietly in the night, a faint smile upon his lips. Yet seemed transformed. Every candle still burned, though wax had long since run out, and upon the altar lay a single white feather, long, luminous, unlike any bird known to those shores. The Chronicle records that the feather was placed in a reliquary and kept in the chapel for centuries. Pilgrims came from a beacon to sailors, until the sea finally claimed the cliff in a later age. But even now, fishermen off that coast say that when a great storm threatens, they sometimes hear voices on the wind, soft, harmonious, reassuring, guiding them safely home. Breathe with me now, dear listener. Inhale the deep stillness that follows storm. Exhale every last whisper of unrest. Feel your body completely heavy, your mind quiet as a chapel at dawn. The angelic voices have not faded. They linger still, watching over weary travelers of the night. Let the ancient melody settle gently over you like falling rain turned to blessing.